Hello, hello. Welcome back to Speak Out with Christine Yeargin. Today's episode is all about adoption, which I think is an absolutely beautiful thing. A mother so courageously and selflessly places her daughter or son with another family who is willing to raise them. What I like to say is makes a life plan for them. I don't ever say give up for adoption because I think that is a decision that they're making so courageously. So we say make a life plan. At least that's what I say anyway. But we have a guest on who was adopted at 2 weeks old and was adopted into a family of a different race. So we're talking all things adoption, what it was like growing up adopted, knowing that you were adopted, being in a family of a different race. And the most exciting part to me is that she recently decided to reach out and look for her biological parents. So that is something that we start to explore. And I'm hoping to do a part two and us kind of follow along that journey with her because it sounds really exciting. She had a 15-year-old mother, biological mother, who actually got pregnant when she was 14 years old and was pressured to abort, but she decided to choose life instead. And it was kind of a really tough situation. But we dive into that. Our guest name is Shekinah Geist. I'm really excited for you guys to hear from her today. So without further ado, here we go. All right, Shekinah, thank you so much for joining me today. I am excited to have you as a guest. I've actually known a little bit about your story. I knew that you were adopted, so I wanted to have you on. But, life is busy and I have 3 kids and I film on specific days, and get everything in that I can. But sometimes I just have to figure out how to make it work, right? As
right.
a part-time work from home mom. So we're making it work now. And I want to hear more of your story. This episode is going to be a little bit different because it's a little bit more organic. Usually when I have a guest on, I really do a ton of research on them and I know a lot about them and I know the very bare bones of your story, but I really want to dive into it with you and hear about it. So you were adopted when you were 2 weeks old and you say that you were given an amazing life. I want to hear you tell me a little bit about your childhood and your teen years and what your life was like as an adopted child. And then we'll go into the other stuff in a little bit.
Yeah. So I was actually adopted, my family is from Colorado, so I grew up in Greeley, Colorado, and I went to a private Christian school from kindergarten all the way through my senior year of high school, Resurrection Christian School. I've gotten to play sports. I know how to play multiple instruments, and I got scholarships for that. And I've been to 20 different countries at this point. I've gotten to travel a lot throughout my middle school and high school years, and my experience has been amazing. It's been something that a lot of people would say, oh, you were adopted by a white family. It was probably so hard and traumatic, but it really wasn't. They taught me how to work hard and get good grades and succeed and do well in life.
Yeah, that's something that is interesting that you point out because there's a lot of people like Colin Kaepernick who will say, having parents of a different race is problematic. And you're here saying no, I had a great life and had a completely different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually really didn't even experience anything that a lot of people like Colin Kaepernick would say, like racism or anything like that. I was treated like everyone else and I was treated with respect, but I also was taught to be respectful too. I was taught to be respectful and how to treat people too. So I feel like that had a big impact too.
Do you have any siblings?
Yeah, so I have 3 siblings, a sister and 2 brothers. They're way older than me, though, and they all have kids.
Were they adopted as well, or are they biological to your adoptive parents?
They're biological to my mom. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So your dad, she had them before your dad was in the picture?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Trying to keep the whole story straight.
I know, there's a lot, but yeah. Mm-hmm.
So obviously you were raised by a white family. Mm-hmm. I know there's always this, I guess maybe I'll ask your opinion of it, though your situation is different. So being raised by a white family, you obviously knew that you were adopted, whether your parents told you or didn't tell you. And I know there's this huge debate over, do you tell a child if they're adopted or do you not? And if you're of the same race, it might be a little bit more difficult to tell, am I adopted? What is your opinion? Should kids know from a young age that they were adopted, or do you tell them later in life or not tell them at all?
I think it's more beneficial to tell them and raise them like with them knowing that they're adopted. And I think the biggest reason is because I think I was able to able to navigate things and deal with it better because I already kind of had a general idea what the situation was going to be. So there was
Right.
no like anger or frustration. And I think it really helped for me to have a better understanding and to be more understanding in that situation. So I'm thankful that my parents were honest with me and gave me the information that they knew, like all the information they were able to give me, because I think it helped me mature better and know how to go about the situation, just like life in general better, and
Sure.
not have any anger or grudges towards anybody.
Absolutely. It's interesting when it comes to the issue of adoption because I hear pro-abortion advocates all the time say that, there's trauma with adoption and people would be better off to, women would be better off to have an abortion than to place their baby into a loving home with a loving family that can raise them. Do you agree that those who have been placed for adoption and made a life plan for their children, those women who've made a life plan for their children, do you agree that they should have aborted?
Not at all. Not at all. Because, and I think the biggest reason is number one, I think it's evil. You can't play God. You don't know how these children are going to end up. And I personally know a lot of children that have been adopted from the same adoption agency as me, and I still keep in contact with them. And they're all doing amazing things in life. And you can't determine what their life is going to end up like, but you have to know that they will make the best decision for their life and at least give them a chance to decide what they'll do with their life. Because really, most of the people that I know that have been adopted, including myself, like, it's a blessing that we were given a second chance. And I really don't think abortion is the answer.
Right. Well, I mean, I obviously completely agree with you. Something very interesting that you mentioned to me recently that I'm excited to dive in is that you have had it on your heart and recently went looking for your bio family. What did you find?
So I actually, the week before Mother's Day, I actually went to Tupelo, Mississippi, where I was adopted from. And New Beginnings was actually closed, so we didn't get to go in. They had a fundraiser event, but it was still cool to like see Tupelo and just like spend time there. And then I went back home and I had a call scheduled for the day after Mother's Day to start like looking for my birth family and stuff like that. And so I hopped on the call and she told me everything that she kind of prepped me. She prepped me to make sure that I was mentally okay with whatever
This is somebody from New Beginnings that's prepping you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. And they're a Christian organization. So they just kind of prep you and make sure like they could be passed away. They could be on hardcore drugs. They could be really wanting money. So you just have to be careful. And they're kind of the middleman to make sure nothing bad happens. And so
You just have no idea what to expect.
yeah, you have no idea what to expect. And so we got off the call. It was about 50 minutes long. And I got off the call. And 10 minutes later, they called me back and said, your birth mom actually left a voice message yesterday on Mother's Day, like asking about details about you and what you've been doing and stuff like that. And I was like, it was crazy because I had no contact with her. I knew nothing about her, didn't know what she looked like, nothing. The only thing that I had ever done was I sent her a few letters when I was little. So that was it. And so they gave me her name and her phone number, and they gave me the opportunity to call her and talk to her on that day.
Now, did she ever respond to the letters when you were younger?
No.
No. So you didn't even know what you were going to get back. And
Nope.
now she's looking for you,
Yeah.
obviously. And did you always know that you wanted to look for her? Or was that just something that like, maybe did you kind of have that put off at some time? Like, no, I don't care. And I know some people, have some grief that they deal with there a little bit maybe. And then there's others who are, very curious from the onset, some that open up a little bit later and soften and want to find them. Was it always like that for you? Or did you just decide recently you wanted to find them?
Well, it wasn't always necessarily like that. I knew I wanted to meet them someday, but I didn't think it would be this soon in life. And I think that's mostly because I was just nervous. I really didn't know what to expect, and I knew that it probably wasn't going to be the best situation. So I didn't even know if she would be alive, because she had me when she was 15. She got pregnant with me when she was 14. So I just didn't really know what to expect at all. And I'm getting married this year in October, so
Congratulations.
thank you. And I felt like it was a good time to kind of sort that out and maybe have the potential of meeting her and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when she gave you her phone number, or gave New Beginnings the phone number, it sounds like, then what happened after that?
So I was really, 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 really nervous. And they gave me her name and number. So New Beginnings gave me her phone number. So I was really nervous, and my fiance and I just went in the car, and he kind of like helped me, calm me down, and just said, "You just gotta do it, and it's gonna be okay." And so I pushed the call button, and she answered the very first time, and it was a very emotional experience for sure. It was very emotional, but it was good. It was a really good experience, and we talked for about an hour.
What did you guys say to, like, what are the first words in something like that? What do you even say?
I didn't even know what to say. I just said, I think you put me up for adoption at New Beginnings, and I think I'm your daughter. And she was like, yeah, I did. And she just started bawling, like totally bawling. And she explained that she actually never wanted to give me up. She actually never wanted to even put me up for adoption. She wanted to keep me, and so did my birth father. But my birth grandmother was not having it at all. And she said, you're either getting an abortion, or I'm sending you to New Beginnings to have the child.
And that's because we talked about this very briefly too. You said she was kind of ashamed of her daughter for getting pregnant at age 14. She got pregnant, which is certainly tough, but you know, that's your daughter and that's your granddaughter. Have you guys set up a time to like meet in person?
We haven't set up a time, but it's probably going to be pretty soon. We text all the time, and I got to know all the siblings, biological siblings that I have that I never met, that I never knew about. So I'm hoping sometime soon, like within the next month, we can maybe go there, because it's only 5 hours away. So yeah.
Now, did your biological siblings know about you?
Yeah, she made sure that that they knew about me. So there's 8 of them, and that's just on her side. So
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. And if I'm asking too many questions that are going to be uncomfortable, let me know, because I don't want to step on any toes. But where does grandma stand now? Is she still alive? Is she no longer here? Has she had a change of heart? What is that situation like?
So she's still alive, from what I understand, but I don't know if she talks to my birth mom or my biological siblings too much. I think there was a lot of like tension still after that, after she got pregnant with me. So I don't think there's too much contact that's happened since then. I know they do talk, but I don't know if they have the closest relationship.
Now, were you able to find your biological father?
Yes. Oddly enough, she actually kept in contact with him all this time. They're not together, but she did keep in contact with him. So I got to talk to him on the exact same day as well.
How did that go?
It was very emotional too, because he knew less than my birth mom, and he wanted to be in my life. He was actually trying to make it possible for my birth mom to kind of run away with him and my biological grandmother on his side, and they could raise raise me together. That's what he really wanted. So it was really difficult for him, not knowing where I was or if I was okay. And so it was very emotional and exciting though too for him, because he's waited for so long to finally meet me, and he was praying that I would reach out on my own, because he had no way of contacting me.
That's such an emotional experience or a tough thing to even think about because when you're 14 and I don't know, was he 14, 15, same age?
16.
Um, so, at that age, you're kind of forced to go by what your parents say a little bit. And, you're not an adult. You can't make your own decisions in some regard. And so you kind of have to just go by what other people are saying. But this is your daughter, like this is your own flesh and blood that you're essentially having ripped from you in a way because it sounds like they wanted to raise you.
Yeah, they did.
But the grandmother pressured them so much the other way that they kind of felt like there was no other choice. That's got to be a lot of turmoil to deal with over the years. And then to know that you wanted that child and to not know where that child is. I mean, I'm a mother of 3. I cannot imagine having given birth, wanting that baby, and then not knowing where they were. Do you have the ability to meet your father too? Is he in Mississippi?
They both don't live in Mississippi anymore, but yeah, I do. Yeah, so I probably will meet him too in the near future.
That's so exciting. What are you most looking forward to about meeting them? And are you hoping to have them involved in your life from here on out and in your children's life? What does that look like if you had to predict?
I do want them to be in my life for sure, and I hope to just be a positive influence, especially as a Christian, just to continue being a positive influence. And I'm excited to build a relationship. And I also want them to know that because they also were very nervous that I would hate them, that I would resent them and not want to talk to them. So I just want them to know that there's really no resentment or hatred whatsoever, and know that I still want to have a relationship with them too, because they honestly made such an amazing decision at such a young age, and knowing that they wanted to keep me at such a young age and they were willing to take on the responsibility at such a young age. It's such an amazing thing to know that. And so that's why it's really, there's no resentment, and I couldn't possibly be resentful, especially because of my adopted family and the amazing life that they gave me too. There's nothing I could possibly regret in my life. So
now, have they talked at all? Your adoptive family? And no, not yet.
no, not yet.
Is that in the works?
Yeah, I'm hoping that will be in the works too. Yep.
That's exciting. So when it comes to this issue and adoption, you're obviously adopted. Do you think that plays a role in you being pro-life?
Yes, 100%. 100%. Definitely.
How so?
And I think a lot of, maybe not all, but a lot of adopted people, I think it hits really close to home because I'm happy to have had a chance to build my own life and to be successful on my own and make my own decision in which direction I wanted my life to go, because I'm a unique human being. And I think that gets lost in translation a lot of times on the pro-life side or the pro-choice side of the argument. Is these are children that are going to have their own dreams, their own aspirations, their own desires. And even if you do grow up in a bad situation, it's that opportunity for them to make a difference and to be whatever they dream of. And you're stripping that away from a child when you're not even giving them the chance to live and decide whether or not they want to live in this world on their own.
Yeah, it was something that's interesting is, the pro-abortion people say they call children like you essentially, and then those who have ended up in foster care, unwanted children. They're unwanted, which I disagree that there is any such thing as an unwanted child. I think there's just an unfound family, because we know that even just for the infants, the newborns that are placed for adoption, there are 36 hopeful couples hoping that they're the couple that's chosen, which means one couple gets chosen and then there's 35 disappointed couples who have to stay in line and wait for the next baby. So there are way more couples wanting to adopt than there are babies who are being placed for adoption. So the homes are there.
Oh, yeah.
And then when it comes to foster care, that's a completely different issue, which I think I did an episode on foster care, but that's where, a biological parent has them, wants to have them. I mean, abortion is obviously legal, right? So they chose to have them in a country where abortion is legal. Maybe fell on some sort of hard times. Maybe both parents died in a car crash. Maybe they became addicted to drugs. Maybe there's neglect. There's all sorts of reasons that people can end up in foster care. But the ultimate goal of foster care is to get that child, reunite that child back with their biological parent. So it's a totally different thing. And I want people to know that they're like, none of those children are unwanted, because even if mom and dad, end up losing custody in a foster case, or when a baby is placed for adoption, there are people willing to step up. I mean,
Right.
so many people willing to step up, just like your parents did. And they sound like they have been phenomenal to you, which I'm so excited to hear. What would you say to a young woman who might be, I want this to be a two-part question. What would you say to a young woman who might be facing an unplanned pregnancy and in a situation like this? And then also, if somebody's listening who was adopted, who might not have met their birth parents, what would you say to them too?
Well, first of all, I would say there is hope, and you have the opportunity to give your child a chance at life. And it's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. I think that's the biggest thing that I would say to a young woman that doesn't know what to do is it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And there's a lot of people out here that want to support, and organizations like New Beginnings that want to support young women and families in this situation and not knowing what to do with their child. There's a lot of options, and there's lots of ways that you can be supported. So you can't lose hope, and you can't lose faith, and don't make a decision that you could regret for the rest of your life, and give that child an opportunity to, at the very least, make their own decisions. And that's what I would say. And then what was the other question you asked again?
You're just like me. I'm like, wait, don't ask
Yeah.
two questions at once, because I'm going to forget that second one. If there's somebody who's listening who was adopted, maybe they have met their birth parents and had a different outcome than you. Maybe they haven't met their birth parents yet. What would you say to them right now listening in?
I think obviously depending on your situation, I think there's some situations that are probably pretty toxic. So, I mean, there can be drugs involved, or like trying to sway you financially, that I think can be a little bit different. So you have to use discernment in that area, and you'll know. And especially if you're with an organization that is kind of being the middleman, they'll be able to like help you and kind of determine that. And you can, if you ever want to cut off communication, they can do that for you. They have the resources to do that. But I think it's an amazing experience to at least know like where you came from, and I think it gives a lot of peace in your mind and it kind of gives a final resolution, because I know sometimes being adopted, you can feel like you've kind of like, you don't know, you kind of feel like you've lost your identity in a sense, like you don't know exactly where you came from, and there's always that question out there. So I think it resolves a lot of like the unknown by at least knowing, and I think it can bring peace in a situation where you feel unsure.
Yeah. Now, you said your mom was 15 years old when she had you. She is the quintessential young teen mom that Planned Parenthood said needs abortion. These teenagers need abortion. And she's basically saying, no, I never wanted the abortion. And Planned Parenthood doesn't protect people like that, who have a grandmother like you have. And hopefully, I hope after all these years, she's maybe, changed her mind a little bit. But your grandmother said, one of the things that I do remember you mentioning was that she didn't want your mom to come home after having you because she still had the baby fat on her. Yep. And so she wanted her to stay at New Beginnings until she lost that baby fat. Mm-hmm. And these are the people that Planned Parenthood does not protect mothers, young women from.
Exactly.
They would say, okay, we'll do this, when the young girl is saying, no, I don't want to have this abortion. I mean, that's a really tough thing to have to realize that, Planned Parenthood really doesn't care about these young women that they say they do.
Right. And that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't realize, because Planned Parenthood's not trying to say it, and neither are these politicians that are promoting abortion, there are a lot of organizations that like help you every step of the way. Every step of the way, between knowing how to give birth, breathing techniques, hospitals nearby that you can have the baby at, all the resources you could possibly need, a place to stay, food to eat, shelter. You can stay for longer if you have issues or you don't have a place to go right away. So there's a lot of protection and support that I think Planned Parenthood is never going to tell you, because it would take away from their agenda and their money-making machine, and it takes away from the political agenda too.
Now, being an adoptee yourself, do you think that you will adopt in the future?
I've thought about that. I've definitely thought about that. If there was ever, if I end up feeling like I'm done having children myself, I would definitely adopt, because you're giving a second chance to a child. And it's just a great way to, I feel like it's just a great way to give back to, and to show love and support too.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, there's no such thing as an unwanted child. These are
Right.
children who are so deserving of love and acceptance, and parents who are going to dote on them and kiss their little feet, all of that. I wonder what your feelings are on open adoption versus closed adoption. Obviously, you didn't meet your mom until most recently over the phone, but had the situation been different, do you have any opinion on open versus closed adoptions?
I think it can depend. I think what was good about kind of having a closed adoption for me was, I'm glad that I met her as an adult, because yes, I really wanted to meet her when I was 8 years old, but I don't know if I would have been mentally prepared for that. I think
Right.
it was good for me to kind of seek out on my own as an adult. So I think it kind of depends on the situation, because not every single child is adopted like right away when they're 2 weeks. Some are older and stuff like that. So I think it depends, and I think there's benefits to both personally, but yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I don't want to take up too terribly much of your time, but I do ask every guest one specific question. You obviously are very vocal on your beliefs, which we are so excited about. You and your fiance, who, if you guys don't know, if you're listening, if you know who Bryson Gray is, he's a hip hop or rapper. What are you, a rapper, right?
Yeah.
And doing great right now. Just had a #1 song, and then didn't Billboard just change something today that said,
Yes,
was
they
that
did.
because of him, you think?
I think it partially is, because I think it takes away the power of the independent artist. That's really their goal.
So basically, for anybody listening, independent artists can still chart. I'm probably not explaining this well. You could probably do a better explanation than I can. Like on the Billboard Top 100, and Bryson is like #1, and there's some BTS is like a really big boy band right now.
Yeah.
I'm showing my age. I'm like, who's BTS? What does that mean? Behind the scenes? I don't know.
Yeah.
But hasn't been able to get to #1 because of your fiance, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And so that's been kind of problematic for those in the music industry, because they obviously want their artist to go #1, and here he is holding it, which has been incredible. But you're both incredibly vocal about your beliefs, about the unborn. Actually, I should probably get Bryson on here one day, because he had a song that with Jimmy Levy that made me tear up listening to it, and was just really really heartfelt. And I love your guys' passion for the unborn. But if you could give one piece of advice to those listening to encourage them to speak out about their beliefs, because it can be tough. I mean, I know you see it. It's not always easy, the hate that you get. And eventually, I'm convinced that you grow thicker skin, and you're just yeah, whatever. Like, you can say whatever you want. It doesn't affect me. But for those who are just now looking to speak out, what one piece of advice would you give them?
Especially on the topic of abortion, I think it's so important to speak out, because a lot of these women are young, vulnerable, and they aren't educated on what's going on. They're not educated. And so if you're not going to speak out and be vocal, they're going to look towards what's going on in the culture and what's popular in the culture, which is the pro-abortion pro Planned Parenthood Democrat celebrities that are kind of pushing it. So when you speak out, you have the ability to influence younger people that may not have the education that they need, instead of them going to someone else. And that's why we need an equal amount of pro-life advocates out there, fighting for the unborn. And that's why it's so really, really important to speak out currently, especially because of the culture. It's about who is going to kind of take over the culture war. And if we don't speak out, I mean, these people are going to speak out. These pro-choicers are going to speak out, and they are. They don't care. They will speak out no matter what. So I think we have to come with the same energy.
You're right. If we don't speak out, we might as well just hand the culture war to them and let them win and forfeit, because they're going to take it no matter what. Shekinah, it's been such a pleasure to have you on. I want to do a follow-up when you meet your mom. Yes. I think we should do like a part 2 to this and like dive into that. Be like, were you nervous? Were you not nervous? Tell us what it was like.
Yeah.
What were your siblings like? What was your dad like? All of that kind of stuff. So let's do a part 2. I'm looking forward to it. And thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely.